channel, and thank you for coming over on a Friday night to see what's going on here in Rob Braxman land. Thank you guys. And looks like we got a lot of people waiting already here. We got 67 people already in. Uh, Great Gold, Loud Citizen, John Q. Public, Jim Thompson, Eagle Source. Uh, who else has been talking? Socratic Curiosity, Offspring Freak, New York NYTRZ, Entire Meyer. Hello, Entire Meyer. Alpha J Mac. Hello, guys. Hello, my friends. So we're gonna talk about some aspects of phones tonight and things that I haven't been able to really pin down because it's something that may be more of a Q&A uh, or a focus on Q&A because it's really difficult to find an answer to what phones work in what situations when you try to get your phone set up with a carrier. I'm talking about the Google phones, and it's been quite difficult lately. It's getting more and more difficult, and I'll explain uh, some of our experiences and what I think they're up to, although it's not entirely clear. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is that I might do a live stream to Odyssey, meaning library. I don't have time this week, so I didn't do it. But maybe in the next week or so, I'm gonna see if I can set it up, and then I'm gonna live stream to both YouTube and Odyssey. The problem with that is I can't read the comments on Odyssey, so I guess it's kind of something that has to evolve. I don't like double streams because you can't pay attention to the comments on one side, and I don't think Odyssey has a good method yet for actually leaving comments on a live stream. But it's going to be like an experiment. They're starting this is very new, and I'm been asked to try it out. So I might. I don't know if there's anybody else trying it out, but I certainly will be one of the ones that will be trying it out, and we'll see how that works. And that may happen next week or the week following. It depends on my schedule because there's a lot of setup. So if I'm able to set it up, I'm going to give it a try. Most of my comments will still be main reading of the comments will be on YouTube. And even now, the broadcast is being simulcast on BraxMe. So Great Gold there is kind enough to set it up so that you can even watch on BraxMe. But again, if you want to leave comments, there's no way for me to pay attention to too many comments. So I'm just gonna, for now, just use the ones from YouTube. So anyway, that's a potential thing that will happen. Yes, 2001 Space Odyssey with IBM. That's what HAL is. IBM, in case you didn't know. Old Asian tech guy talks about privacy and security, happy noises. What the zuck does that mean? So anyway, we're gonna rant. We're gonna rant because I'm so pissed off at Verizon, AT, even T-Mobile. Way back, even as early as last year, John, what's his name? The CEO of Jean Leger, the CEO of T-Mobile, used to come to my channel all the time, and we would talk live, and so he was a frequent visitor to my channel, and then he even donated, surprise, a brand new Samsung Galaxy S9 on my channel. So that was pretty cool. And somebody won that. So somebody won a Galaxy S9. And, that was very kind of him. Anyway, he's not at T-Mobile anymore. So now I don't have any more contacts here. So I don't have anybody to go to and say, what the zuck is happening with the carrier world? It's just, I'm just so fed up. It's like everyone wants to make it difficult to get the Google phone. Maybe it's intentional. I have no idea. But it almost seems intentional that they're really trying to block us from anyone that's not towing the line as far as what phones that we're supposed to have, and they make announcements about, oh, we have a end of life for 3G. This is from AT&T. End of life from 3G has been moved to February 2022. Right. Now try to get your phone activated 3G phone with AT&T today. So tell me if that's true. They are fucking lying. They're a bunch of liars. All of them. I can't, I used to favor Tmobile because they were the least corrupt of them all. And now I can't even say that. It's just, somebody said, there was an article in some publication that says, AT&T, T-Mobile, and all these guys will not suddenly cut off 3G because a lot of corporate clients are still on 3G, and that would be very bad PR. Apparently, they don't care. They don't care. So they, dropped phones left and right. And just today, if you're one of the 3 people who bought my phone and tried to sign it up with Verizon today, okay, not yesterday. Yesterday was another bunch, and rejected some of the models that have always been accepted by Verizon, and they said, well, we're not going to accept this phone. Why? I have no clue. I have no clue why. I really have none. Okay, I'll give you specific models, and then so you understand what I'm saying here. So one of the models that I use is the Motorola G7. It's a specific one called River, which is a XT1962-1. That's the exact model. XT1962-1. USA model, compatible with Verizon, GSM carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint. It's compatible with everything. Okay, and yet 3 phones today would not be accepted by Verizon. Verizon said, we're not going to accept this phone. I have no idea what the logic is, because a Motorola G7 XT1962-1 is not only a US phone with a US warranty, it also is definitely an LTE phone, and has voice over LTE, has all that. And what is the excuse? And they say, well, the IMEI is not supported. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, they're rejecting all these phones, and I'm just so fed up. And yet, I'm gonna tell you a little trick, because it's not even honest what they do. So, for example, they'll reject. Here's a specific phone model that I sell. It's Motorola G7 XT1962-6. So it's another G7 Motorola, and the -6 means it's the international model. International. So the international model, in theory, then would not be accepted because it's not a U.S. model. And the funny thing is, it works fine. However, you go to Ting.com, or you go to T-Mobile or AT&T, and they say, oh, we don't support this phone. It's not on our list of supported phones, but the hardware is exactly the same as all the other phones. So all you have to do in this case, and this just shows you just how stupid things are, all you have to do is activate some other phone they like, activate your iPhone, whatever, and move the SIM card over. That's it. Move the SIM card. It works. Why? I have no sucking idea. I have no idea. Okay? I'm not a carrier. I'm just selling the Google phones, and it just bugs me, because it's like, there's no consistent rule. By the way, you can call Verizon, talk to one agent, and they'll say, oh, we can't, your phone is not supported. And then go someplace else with Verizon, same company, and it'll be fine. What the heck is up? Can you explain that to me? I don't understand. You know, some percentage of phones they will say, well, we don't approve this phone, even though it's any one of the accepted models, and yet many times all you do is insert the SIM card, it works anyway. So learn this little trick. Learn this little trick from me here. When you get a phone that they're having problems with supposedly, or they don't want to approve, just use an older phone that you have that you know works and transfer the SIM card. And you will find that there will be no mystery. It will work fine in many, many cases. Now, not all cases, and then we're going to go into different topic. Now, what is the story with the Pine phone? Well, the Pine phone, I don't know if the Pine phone supports voice over LTE. So, that's going to be an issue. I don't know. I haven't tried it. It worked with T-Mobile when I last tried it. So, and that was last year. I haven't tried it this year because I don't want to waste time testing it until I know it works. So anyway, one of the things that's happening supposedly, and again, talk about being lied to by these carriers, and it's kind of a oligopoly, so we don't really have any control, and we're zucked again. We're in the middle, and we're zucked, and people may get mad at me because I'm selling you phones, and then without my knowledge or anybody else's knowledge, we say, oh, we don't support your phone anymore. It's like, suck. What's the reason for this? So one of the things that they are supposedly saying now is that they're going to drop 3G, and depending on the company, 3G was supposed to be dropped in. AT&T said we're going to extend it to February 2022, so a year from now, and you cannot get a phone activated on AT&T unless it's a specific kind, and a phone that supports LTE will no longer work. Just examples of phones that are LTE that will no longer work. Somebody was trying to activate a BlackBerry Passport, which is I believe that's a 2014 phone. And that is LTE. That was one of the first LTE phones of the day. So, and AT&T will not accept that phone, even though it's LTE. Here's another one. Pixel 1, Pixel XL, Pixel 2. These are LTE phones. They're LTE. It said so. You can look at the specs. And they're saying, no, we're not going to accept these phones. Nexus 5, they're not going to accept that phone. And even the Nexus 5 is an LTE phone. So what is happening is that LTE is not really the correct definition of what they're dropping, and that's why it's causing so much pain to many, many consumers. And basically, you're being forced to buy a newer phone. So don't blame me when this happens, because I really have no influence on this. No influence, but I believe this is not an issue in many, many countries. So if a phone that doesn't work here in the U.S. will work in most countries that have 3G. So what exactly is this voice over LTE that they're talking about, and why are they saying that they're not going to accept 3G phones, since a lot of safer phones are 3G? We love 3G because you can have flip phones and all that, and now you can't. So a lot of the options that we have, we no longer have. So the reason is, and this is not clearly explained, and they really did an awful job trying to explain this. In fact, they don't explain it. I'm telling you because of what I know, but they did not explain it at all. So the way it works is that your data, so if you're using the internet on a phone, the data plan is always nowadays always LTE on any newer phone. Thank you, JLo Flicks. JLo Flicks. Can a Samsung S7 Edge become Google free? I can't do them. I'll come back to that. Let's talk about Samsungs in general in a moment. So the way that it works, voice over LTE, LTE, the way it works is your data plan is on LTE. But currently, or in older phone models, the way it works, and this is true from Pixel 1, Nexus 5, Pixel 2, what happened was your voice was sent on a different frequency, which happened to be in the same range as 3G. And then the LTE was for data. So if you were using the internet, you're going to use the LTE side. But if you're going to use voice, it uses the frequency that's used for the voice side, and which is similar to which is the 3G area, okay, 3G frequency. So when they said they're banning or they're stopping 3G, they really mean that they're no longer supporting that kind of voice model. So not just 3G data, but 3G in general, even relating to voice. And they don't explain this. And the real feature, like I said, is called VoLTE, voice over LTE. So if you want to be immune from this for the next few years, you really have no choice but to get a phone that is voice over LTE equipped, or we're going to get zucked again. Okay, this is not true of different countries again, other than the US. This is a US thing. So if you're in the US, I'm going to suggest this. Do not get a... actually, I'm just going to make a general comment that so far, the one phone that I have never gotten anybody complaining and saying nothing works with some carrier is the Pixel 3. So we may not be able to go lower than a Pixel 3 for USA use. So no Pixel 2, no Pixel 1, no Pixel XL, no Nexus 5, no BlackBerry, no nothing, none of that. So Pixel 3, in fact, it's the only one that I have that is compatible with all carriers, Verizon, Tmobile, AT&T. For example, if one of the newer models that I have is the Motorola G7 Plus, which is newer, but it's not compatible with Verizon or Sprint. So it looks like, for less risk, you have to almost choose between a Pixel 3 and a Pixel 4, Pixel 4 XL. And I'll add Pixel 3 XLs. I don't have them in stock right now, but being what, having this situation happen now where we're being blocked, we may have to upgrade to Pixel 3s, which should give us some immunity from any change for a few years. A Pixel 3 is a 2019 phone, so it's still fairly new. My Pixel XL from Rob is working on Ting. Yes, but Kent, they're not accepting that on AT&T, the Pixel XL. So we're kind of stuck with T-Mobile there. So Verizon might take a Pixel XL. You're going to have to find out. But definitely not AT&T. So AT&T has always been kind of a pain for me. I've dropped AT&T long ago because I went to the AT&T store and they cheated me, and I complained to them, and they said, "Well, sorry, we can't do anything." And so I said, "Okay, then I'll talk badly about you in social media." So what happened, just to repeat that story that I told on Periscope a couple of years back, was I went to the store to get a phone activated, and they said, "Oh, you should buy this Apple Watch because it's cheap. It's only $40 or $50 for an Apple Watch." And this salesperson convinced me to get an Apple Watch and say, "Is there anything else I have to pay?" "No, it's a special 50 some bucks." And it turns out that not only do you have to pay $50, but there was a monthly payment so the total to 200 and something dollars. It was a total scam. And they wouldn't acknowledge that their employee was scamming me, probably to get a commission, and and that employee no longer worked there, and allow that to happen. And I said, well, zuck you, AT&T. So I went to T-Mobile. T-Mobile, like I said, fortunately, I befriended the CEO of T-Mobile, John Leger. And he was a broadcaster also on Periscope. So he would come to my broadcasts a lot, and would come in every time. Every time the title said something about Zuckbook, he was there. So he was very curious about my thoughts on Zuckbook. He didn't think anybody was spying on you, but he's the CEO of T-Mobile, and at the time, and I guess he wants to run for president now or something. It's like yeah. So he's no longer CEO of T-Mobile, but I hear in the news that he wants to become president or something. So you use consumer cellular. Let me just explain that. There are only 3 carriers. So you're going to say Ting.com, Mint, this, that, Republic, and you think there's so many carriers, but really there are only 3. The only 3 carriers are T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. That's it in the U.S. T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. You can mention 50 other names of companies, and they're going to go to T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. So Ting.com, for example, goes to T-Mobile. Mint goes to, where does Mint go? Mint may go to AT&T. I'm not clear on that. So these companies are called MVNOs. Okay, so MV is in Victor, NO. So MVNOs are basically contracting with the main carriers. And in some ways, it's better to go to an MVNO because the MVNOs put a layer of protection on your data, because then the main carrier doesn't actually see who the customer is. Like on Ting.com, I think the only thing I give them is an email address. I don't remember giving them any other information other than an email address. So, I guess maybe they can take information from a credit card. Sprint is now owned by T-Mobile. Hermenegild. I know I didn't pronounce that right. It's probably Hermione Guild or something. Sprint was purchased by T-Mobile, and T-Mobile itself is, I think, dropping the actual Sprint service itself. You come to take notes, Miku. Miku has come to take notes. Okay, so I'm saying that if you come to me and say, well, will Republic work? Well, it doesn't really matter who the carrier is. You almost need to ask the question, will it work for whoever the main carriers that they use? Because obviously, if the main carrier does not accept the phone, then they won't take it. Sometimes the MVNO is even stricter than the main one. For example, many times a phone will be rejected by T-Mobile, by Ting.com, but will be accepted by T-Mobile. I have no idea why. Again, I don't really understand, the logic. I mean, they must lose a lot of business between these carriers because they're so strict about what phones come into their network, and they must lose a lot of customers. One of the most difficult ones to deal with, really, truly, in my opinion, is Verizon. It's the most difficult carrier to deal with. many times you get a phone that has the same specs as some other phone. In fact, it may be an international model with the exact same specs, and they'll say, "Oh, no, we don't accept that." And there's no real reason from a technology side because the frequencies are the same and everything is the same. And what happens is they have a fixed list of phones that they do, and they U.S. models obviously, so they can't go with any variances like I have a Librem 5 or a Pine phone. They say, that's some unknown phone to us or unknown modem, so we're not gonna go. Accept that. Mint is T-Mobile. Okay. Um, so yeah, so it's they work from a list. Like I said, the secret is, and just remember this little trick here, because I do it all the time. I have Ting.com and T-Mobile. I have those two available at all times. I have SIM cards for both. And sometimes when I test the phone, I plug in my T-Mobile into whatever phone I'm testing or a Ting.com. And then it always works. It always works. On any of the phones I sell, it always works. Even though they say, well, we don't support this international model. Zuck you. I plug in the SIM card, it works. So, but many of you are not techie, and it scares you to think that you get a phone and it doesn't work, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? One of the typical reasons a phone doesn't work is actually kind of basic. Your the phone settings, or basically the way they verify your identity is by your phone connecting to the network of the MVNO or the main carrier and seeing if you're a subscriber. And they do that through something called an APN settings. APN. Somebody can tell me what APN means, but I don't know what it means at the moment. I forgot. But if I go to my phone here, if you go to, let's see, network and internet, mobile network, advanced, and there it is, access point name. And then you will see that at the bottom, access point name. And then you can actually select an access point name. And then if one is not listed, because they're supposed to automatically give you the list of APNs, and your phone doesn't necessarily know that because it's not activated. So, and somebody asked me that, and yes, there is a little plus sign in the right upper corner. You can hit that plus sign and manually enter the APN that they give you. Okay, so access point name. So somebody said, well, I can't enter an access point name. You're wrong. Yeah, there's a plus button on the top. Okay, top bar towards the right. So, and then you can, if you hit plus, it will actually allow you to enter the name, APN, proxy, port, username, password, etc., which the tech of the carrier, if they're willing to help you, can give you if they want to do so. So sometimes they give you the wrong information on the access point name, and then it doesn't work. And then you come to me and say, Rob, you're screwing with us. You're selling us phones that don't work, even though it works for the vast majority of you. So yeah. So for every there's the hit or miss ratio varies by carrier. When it comes to T-Mobile, the hit ratio is probably 99%. It will always work. AT&T, it used to always be 99%, and now with this stuff on voice over LTE, they're actually saying certain phones are not voice over LTE, even when they are. It's in their specs, and other people are using them, but they're going to say, oh, your phone is not voice over LTE. So then we're going to be exact again. Sometimes, again, like I said, is the reason is just they just gave the wrong APN information. There's a lot of information here. If you go to that APN section and hit plus, there's a lot of values you got to set here. So some of this is supposed to be automatic. The phone is supposed to detect it, and if they don't do that, then it won't do it right, then it won't connect, and then you'll come to me and blame me, which is okay. I'm here to help you. Verizon, the ratio of failures is very high, and again, I don't know why. It's like 10%, sometimes even 20% of the phones, depending on the day. So maybe 15% if I'm going to average it out. 15% of the phones, they'll say, oh, we don't want, your phone is not compatible. It's the same phone. In fact, I could sell that same phone to somebody else and it will work. I have no zucking idea what the reason is. I really have none. The problems I have had, just so we're clear, have been related to Motorola's. So I don't know what their problem is with Motorola. It's on their list of compatible phones. So you ask them, is this a compatible model? They'll say yes. Is this a supported model? Yes. So how come it doesn't work? The tech will say, I have no idea. Doesn't work. We'll give you a new SIM card. Still doesn't work. So, if I were you, I'd avoid Verizon. I know people go to Verizon because they have service in rural areas, whereas AT&T and T-Mobile are not as reliable in some of these remote areas. Maybe you need to go with something called, and I'm going to introduce this to you. It's called Wi-Fi calling. Wi-Fi calling. Okay, now what is Wi-Fi calling? If the service is not good for voice where you are, you can use your phone over Wi-Fi, and the calling side will do the call through your Wi-Fi. It won't use it. It won't use the carrier cell tower, which is probably good. Thinking about it from a privacy point of view, because then the cell tower triangulation won't work, and the Stingray and all that won't work either. So based on so I tend to dislike Verizon because I really have no idea why they have such a high reject ratio. And the other thing about Verizon is they actually have a preset list of phones. If you have a phone that you bought from some unknown source, they'll just ban it. They're not going to test it. They're not going to do anything. So we haven't approved that model. So a submodel may be rejected. I give you an example. There's a Motorola G7, I believe it's 1962-4, which I believe is from India. I think it's an Indian variant. It's the same exact thing, but it was made for the Indian market. And often the only difference between the phones is they change the language on it, the default one that they ship with. So we install the same software on it as we do on any of the other Motorola's. So in essence, the phone is the same because we changed the software to be the same. And then Verizon will say, nope, don't support it. And then you go back to this again. And again, if you move the SIM card over, it works. So one of the tricks you can do if you don't have a phone that you can use to activate a SIM card is to borrow somebody else's phone and say, can I activate a SIM card on your phone? Then I'll take the SIM card out and move it. So that's certainly a technique that seems to work. So which means I don't really care. Which means their network can't really tell what your phone is. Now, one of the things that is interesting is when you use your phone is doing something, it's matching something called an IMEI. Okay, IMEI is the International Mobile Equipment Identity. See, I remember the acronym. Okay, International Mobile Equipment Identity. So that's tied to the modem. So there's a modem hardware in here, and that number is hard coded per phone. It's you can't change it. It's built into your phone. Now, When you activate with any one of them, they'll say, we need to do a IMEI check. So you got to give them an IMEI. And then they'll say, okay, your phone can be activated. But the fact of the matter is, you can take another SIM card from another phone and move it around. And then suddenly the IMEI doesn't matter. So it's like, what the heck? So what are they actually trying to do? So they actually do not care what the IMEI is in real life. They don't really care. And by the way, yes, the IMEI is a very serious identifier. That's why you want to de-Google, because then no device can, except for the carrier side, meaning the modem, no app can see the IMEI and IMSI, the International Mobile Subscriber Identity. When you de-Google the phone, those two identifiers cannot be accessed by an app. And the OS can access it, but the OS is not owned by Google when it's de-Googled. So if the phone is a standard Google, then of course it can access that and say, oh, your IMEI is such and such, and your Google ID. They know your Google ID, obviously, because your phone's logged in. So now they know everything about you. This is one of the to me, it's like the worst things you can do is to have a Google phone, where they not only know the identity of the phone, but they also know your Google ID. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? One of the things I tell you here on my channel is that the secret to privacy is identity. If you obfuscate your identity, what happens then is, there is no way to match the data collected, because the data collected will not be attributable to any kind of identity. So I tell you that you go into another app and you use a different name. So if you're on Facebook with name A, you go to app 2 and call yourself name B. So Google will know that. Google will know exactly what you're doing. That's why it's so, it destroys everything I'm trying to teach you. So Google knows that. So how do they know? Because they have your Google ID, which is open to the OS, and it's doing Firebase. It's actually sending back and forth, sending telemetry between the apps. And then next is that Google knows the IMSI and the IMEI. So even if you change Google ID, they still know, because they can read the IMEI and the IMSI. So there's no escape. But if you have a de-Google phone, it doesn't see that. That's why it's so awesome. The kind of freedom you're going to feel. If many of you don't understand this, but I've studied this very closely, and I can tell you for certain that a de-Google phone is very powerfully safe. I mean, I can't believe how much is actually eliminated, from a risk point of view. Yes, they can still track you by IP address, and if you're careless, they can still track your location. But the identity is so preserved on the Google phone. It's amazing, because I've never logged into this phone. I've never logged into this. In fact, I've reset the OS on this a few times. I've never logged into this phone. This phone knows nothing. Now, when you actually go to different apps, let's say one of my favorite apps is Kindle, because I like to read. So I'm always on Kindle. So let's say I'm on Kindle here, and then I have to log into Kindle, obviously. And let's say I go to Spotify. Okay, so now those are two apps with an identity, Spotify and Amazon Kindle. Now, the thing is that I can't actually, those apps do not share information with each other. There's actually no way for them to pass results from one to the other. So in fact, it doesn't matter that you're logged into Spotify. It doesn't matter that you're logged into Amazon. The data doesn't connect, because it's not like there's a Google that actually connects the data between the two of them. So I love it. I mean, the Google phones are just, someday we may be banned from using this, but at the moment, this is pretty awesome. So it's like a little bit of freedom. Change your habits, guys. Get a de-Google phone. simplify your life. Don't have every app in here. Simplify your life and then use computers. Computers, they've never been able to trick computers to have so much data, because in almost all the computer OSs, you can go in there and delete stuff. Whereas these things are so locked down that you can't touch them, that, all the internals are not visible to you or me. It's, for example, when it's an Apple. Let me just interrupt this broadcast for a moment. And the reason is I want to talk about my sponsor, and my sponsor is Linode. So one of the things you can do is set up your own Nextcloud servers, so that you can actually not rely on Google Drive, and you can set up your own servers with websites and so on. And if you ever need to have access to the cloud, I'm a big user of Linode. I have a lot of servers on Linode, a lot. So, lots of servers. So, it's been a company that I've been able to choose companies when it comes to server farms. And another one that I use is Amazon AWS. And Linode is so much cheaper than Amazon AWS. So if you ask me, there's only certain things that I cannot do in Linode that I have to do on Amazon AWS. Otherwise, I would move everything to Linode. Linode not only has a better price, but the other thing is their service is very, very good. I mean, I don't get any service from Amazon AWS. So anyway, recommend it highly. Again, I don't have too many sponsors. If you notice, I only take sponsors that I believe in. Very, very few sponsors. So I have a 99.9999% of sponsors I do not deal with. So if you go to Linode and use the code Rob Braxman, linode.com/Rob Braxman, Linode will give you $100 credit that you can use up to 6 months, up to 2 months, sorry. So, and some of the servers are only like $5 a month. So you can even use it to practice Linux. So anyway, so that's just something that I highly recommend. So if some of you are more techie, you can use that. You can even set up your own email service and whatever else service you want to do on the cloud. Anyway, back to what I'm talking about. Regarding computer privacy, I assume Linux. You know what? Obviously, Linux would be the safest option, since Linux doesn't have any spyware. Let me tell you the real problem with Linux, and a lot of you come to me and think I am not like DistroTube, DT, Linux Gamer, and some of these other Linux guys who are more hardcore about Linux, because I use them all. I use Linux, I use Windows, I use Mac OS, and I'm more about privacy itself, and if I can solve it some other way, I don't really care what is used if I have an option. One of the problems I have is if some of you are coming from mobile phones and want to use a tablet, you're going to have a particular image of what device you want to use. So I'll tell you right now, if you're coming from the mobile device world, you want something super light. So you're going to say, well, I want a tablet. Well, so don't get iOS, iPads, and so on. Those are bad choices because they have a lot of sensors. So then you say, well, what else can I use? And then you start thinking about devices, and there's so many lightweight, basically computers. As an example, the most obvious one is Microsoft Surface. Microsoft Surface is basically a tablet, but it's running full Windows, the Pro version. There's a lower version that's not full Windows, but the Pro version is full Windows. It's just your average everyday Windows, and you can put a keyboard and do all the Windows things on it. If you use that, it's the same as a laptop. It's identical. what you can do on Microsoft Surface, you can do on a laptop. Now, if you can do that, then you can turn off the spyware on Windows. I have a video on how to turn off the Microsoft spyware. Yes, that's not off out of the box. It's a very bad way because compared to Linux, Linux doesn't spy on you. If you have Ubuntu, there's some tracking, but I think it's overstated what the tracking is. They just basically want to count of users. Ubuntu does track you a little bit, but not necessarily identity-wise. They just want to count the number of users. So because they probably have no idea how many people use their software. So if you're going to be so hardcore about this, we will lose certain people who will say, well, your solution is not good, so I'm going to go back to iOS, because I don't want you to use iOS. I don't want you to use an Android tablet. I want you to use something else, a computer, because even Windows, Mac, even a Mac, even though I'm not fond of Macs, and I have many Macs, I would use those instead of a phone OS, mobile OS like Android and iOS. I can't de-Google a tablet, so I don't really have a choice. You're going to have to use Android or iOS. So the question is why? Why would I do that? Because if you use Windows and you set it up a certain way, then all the sensors can be turned off. Not sensors, all the spying can be turned off. And to some extent, you can do also with a Mac, with Mac OS, and definitely with Linux. But the problem is Linux always has problems with drivers. So some of you are so hardcore and you don't realize there's some really practical issues with Linux. Linux always has a problem with newer devices, with newer touch screens, newer touchpads and high resolution displays and all that, because the Linux drivers are always behind, because the manufacturer of the new device are not going to pass it on to Linux first. So often Linux doesn't get the driver because it's proprietary. They don't get the driver for a particular new feature for a long time. So for example, if somebody makes a foldable computer, somebody will come up with that at some point. So HP will be able to sell you a foldable computer, but then Linux will not be able to support it because they don't have a driver for it. So given that, what am I trying to tell you? I'm saying, there are grades of levels of success with privacy. Moving away from mobile, I think, is a big plus. If you moved away from mobile onto computer, kudos to you. You already gained by losing a whole lot of spying that comes from these. Okay, let's say your phone is a simplified de-Google phone, and then most of your stuff is done on a computer of any kind of computer. You're in great shape. The problem is I don't want to lose people who say, well, I want something portable, and who makes the in the Windows world, the true portable computers are only made by two companies. They have like tablet convertible format. I'm using one right now. It's an HP Spectre X360. It's what I'm broadcasting on right this moment. This is my broadcasting computer. It cannot run Linux, unfortunately. And then I have another one, which is the Lenovo Yoga. Forgot the model that I have, but Lenovo Yoga convertible. So again, they are just average, everyday, normal Windows computers. The reason they can't be they can't run on Linux is because the foldable convertible setup is not something that Linux supports. So those two devices cannot work. So if you do not have an issue with foldable computers, if you do not have a problem with weight, then Now you have a lot of options, and then I would really recommend that you use Linux. So if you're okay with a regular ultralight laptop, then you can use a Librem 14, a System 76, or a Star laptops. Now I myself use the Star laptops because it's quite a bargain. For I believe I bought it for $800, and yeah, full functional. It's the same CPU as this HP Spectre X360, but it's compatible with Linux completely, so it works great. So I would use that. Now, some of you are still sticklers for this, because you don't like, you're like such, especially the young people who are always overexcited by what Tim Cook shows on one of his shows, and you want to use the M1 chip from the Mac. Okay, so if you're going to use an M1 chip, fine, use it. Because it really is pretty awesome, the technology. There's going to be some spying in Mac OS, but it's not near, happily I can say, it's not near the level of spying as on a phone. But you have to understand, you're logged in to Apple. So you're logged into Apple. Apple knows who you are. So when I log into a Microsoft device, I do not log in with any identity. Often I'll just call myself admin. There's no identity on my computers. I do not log in using any Microsoft ID, and I use a VPN. So my computers are pretty much unidentified when it comes to Windows. So since I can do that to Windows, but I cannot do it on the Mac, then my preference is it is Linux, number one, a modified Windows, meaning remove the spyware and never log in with Windows. That's number two. And the third is Mac OS, because I have no way of removing anything from Mac OS. Tim Cook wants to make sure that he controls your life from your phone to your computers. So yeah, but if you ask me, you say, well, if you don't let me buy an M1 Mac OS, I'm not going to be concerned about privacy, then okay, yeah, use it. I mean, you've said you've used admin for secondary users. Mysticulous is so smart. Yes, Mysticulous. The actual way I do it is I use another name for my main admin account. I'll make one up. Peon. Let's say I'll set up an account called Peon, and that will be my admin account, the real admin. And then the account that is not admin, the one that's actually just a standard user, I'm going to call admin. So use that kind of logic. You can kind of, I don't actually use the word Peon, but I'm not going to tell you what I use. Hutta Galbury. Is that Hutta Juta? How do I say that? Thank you for being awake early in the morning watching me, or is it midday over there? Which CPU is better for privacy, Intel, AMD, or ARM CPUs? ARM is better for privacy, but let's be realistic. It obviously can't run Windows. Can't run, so unless it's an M1 kind of ARM. But as far as Intel versus AMD, Intel and AMD both have their own version of IME, the Intel Management Engine. AMD is equivalent of that. But that is not really a real problem for your home user. Companies like Purism market that as a threat, and they say, well, you need to use this and that, use Core Boot and whatever, because somebody will be able to break into your computer using IME. Not true. Not true. Okay? No one's going to be able to break in from the outside world into your home network using IME because of NAT. NAT is the way your home network is set up. A NAT will stop an outsider from directly manipulating ports on your computer. Thank you, uh, uh, Tobias Magnus. Thank you so much. So, yeah, that's in the search for my video, uh, Microsoft spyware. Microsoft spyware. I forget the actual title. Maybe I'll retitle it. Maybe I'll retitle that. So it's easier to find because it was part of a two-part series when I bought a Windows computer that I needed for YouTube. So I bought a gaming computer. So it has more powerful and more powerful NVIDIA card. That's another thing that you have problems with on Linux, by the way. If you need to use an NVIDIA card, then there's always compatibility problems with Linux. So if you're going to use an NVIDIA card, you're kind of stuck. You got to use Windows. If you're like me, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm stuck. I got to use Windows. So rather than fight that, I just want to make sure that my Windows doesn't have any identity. Then it's, as far as I'm concerned, from the privacy side, then it's fine. Nextcloud, the best private cloud solution. Nextcloud is very private because it's yours. It's yours. So no one else is going to be reading it. But the best Nextcloud is Nextcloud at home, but that's pretty difficult. So if you're willing to do Nextcloud at home, where you sync only when you're at home, then that's the super safe solution. So, but that's not easy to set up. So anyway, based on this, on what I'm saying here, if I were you, I'd just really change my life and say, hey, let's simplify. Don't rely on the phone as you know. Don't be like your typical young person. And I have so many young people here now who are subscribers. But some of you are starting to realize that you don't want a spy machine in your pocket constantly. The Google phone is not a spy machine, so it's awesome. The problem is that you can't run certain things. For example, I can't run the Uber app. So some of you will say, "Oh my gosh, that's deal breaker right there," because I got to use the Uber app because millennials apparently don't buy anything, so they're not going to buy a car. Well, you can still use the browser. So the browser still works. So you can use a browser for things where you can't run the app. But you do have to change habits. You do have to change habits. I mean, it's not I'm not going to tell you that everything works, that because the whole point of the spying is that you have to eliminate some of these things that track you, and certainly Uber tracks you quite a bit. So Uber knows a lot of information about your locations. It's even tracking you when you're not using Uber. So your choice is to ignore what I say and say, well, I don't really care what this guy talks about. I have nothing to hide, and so I'll just use my standard Google phone or iOS. But I have to tell you, I mean, to be honest with you, I just love the fact that this phone has no identity, no tracking, and I can do most things here. I mean, look at the apps I have on here. I don't have a lot of apps. I have all my messaging apps like Conversation, Signal, and all that. Brax me. But I have Kindle, I have Spotify, Netflix, New Pipe, where I can watch YouTube videos. What else? I have Waze on here. Waze. I have Yelp. It's not. I don't feel like I'm necessarily, living in a cave here. I mean, there are apps. Okay, there are apps. One of my most well used apps is, of course, the my navigation app, for boating because I have a boat and I do a lot of that. So my navigation app called Navionics with the GPS that runs great. Predict winds is something that we sailors use that works great on this. So there's really no problem. Most things work. Yeah, you know it's not the end of the world, guys. You can survive, and there's really no sacrifice in using a computer. I mean, when you're watching your YouTube videos on a computer, the screen is bigger. I don't know why you're like fond of looking at a tiny little screen when you can have a big screen. I don't get it. Yes, you can still use your Yahoo Mail. Yes, you can use your Gmail even. I have a Gmail. I have a test Gmail account on this. That's the only thing I put on my phone. It's a test Gmail account, and it doesn't connect to Google directly. It uses the preloaded email client we put on here, which is K9. You can also erase data from Google Play Service. No, stop that. Which the Google phone you sell would you recommend? At the moment, based on actual results of the least problems with carriers, and one that I don't think will be dropped anytime soon by carriers, is the Pixel 3. Pixel 3 or Pixel 3 XL. And it's still, moderately priced. The Pixel 4 is very expensive. So, yeah, a Pixel 4 can be up to twice as expensive as a Pixel 3. So, Pixel 3 is $399. And it's and I only carry the mint condition Pixel 3, so they look like new, and they're really nice phones, and they're waterproof. So from now on, I'm going to recommend that more specifically, because it's less problematic than all of the other versions. Motorola's, OnePlus, all of that, all of them have some sort of problem with something eventually. And I've not seen one carrier say, oh, we're not going to approve your Pixel 3 or Pixel 4. Not happened yet. So I guess they don't want to offend Google. So, old fan of Periscope, Fedazone. Yes, I remember you. Fedazone. Weren't you in Arizona or someplace, if I recall? Can you talk more about voice over IP? Voice over IP is, we're talking, hold on here, approving Mickey Leak's comment here because it was being hidden. Voice over IP is not connected to the actual phone part. So as an example of the most common voice over IP that you can use is Skype. So another one is Viber, apps like that. So are voice over IP options good? Penumbral one. Nothing. I don't know why sounds like some other problem there. GPS has not been an issue on any device that I have. Yeah, I've not had a problem with GPS on anything. So, what was I saying? Now I forgot what I was talking about. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, voice over IP. So, if you say, can you do voice over IP, it simply means you're going to use an app that will take your speech and convert it to digital. And that includes Skype, like I said, and some of them have video, and that includes Viber and so on. And some, if you want to talk about the ones with video, then there's some really good ones like Jitsi Meet. That's what I recommend. And of course, there's Signal. Now, that's all voice over IP. The best voice over IP for people you know. So if you're gonna deal with talking to family and you want to do voice over IP, I wouldn't use Viber or Skype. If I want to talk to friends and family and want it to be private for friends and family, I'm gonna use Signal. I would use Signal. Okay. Now Signal has a problem, and that is it actually reveals your contact information to people who know your phone number. So that's what I hate about it. But if you limit use of Signal to family members and people you already know, it's the best because the encryption is better for voice over IP and video. Now, if you want no actual metadata, then the one that I recommend highly is jitc.meet. That's the name of the app. It's called jit.c or meet.jit.c, and you can use it on a computer, on a phone. You can use it on anything, and it's free, and it's federated. There's a lot of servers. You can even set up your own jitc server, and it's very, very safe. So because there's no identity, there's no phone number attached, there's really nothing attached to you. So that's the best when you want to. Let's say somebody says, "Well, I want to talk to you, but you don't know who this person is." Don't use Signal. Say, "Well, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to give you my phone number. Then you're going to call me every day and spam me." So solution is, let's connect using Jitsi. And I have a video on Jitsi. So JITSI. So go find a video in Jitsi. It's again, you can just you don't have to set anything up. You can just use the Jitsi public server, which is meet.jit.c, and they have an app. And then if you use that, then you're all set. And all you have to do is share a meeting name. So make up a meeting name, share it with people, and that's it. You're in. It's so uncomplicated. It's really simple. No one's going to tell me that Jitsi is hard to use. It's really super simple and it works. Okay, so that's what I would use instead of voice over IP. Okay, now if you people will say, well, we're doing business, we need to use Skype. I hate doing that because I interviewed John McAfee, and John McAfee wanted to use Skype. So I was forced to use Skype. And I don't like using Skype. So, yeah, I avoid it like the plague, but sometimes I don't have any choice. Okay, so one of the problems with Skype is Skype likely has an agreement with the government where they can listen into your Skype sessions. I think it's part of the PRISM program of the three-letter agency to listen into conversations. So they're likely voice printing you and capturing that, and it's not encrypted. So zuck that. So zuck that. So I'm not going to use Skype. I'm not going to use Viber. I'm not going to use any of that. So I'm basically saying leave it to two options, which is Signal for family and Jitsi for anyone that's not family. So yeah, they're like pounding McAfee with indictment after indictment. I mean, he's already getting the bad press. Like, he's such a criminal. He was pushing crypto. I'm gonna be honest with you. McAfee was pushing crypto, not hiding the fact that these crypto guys were paying him. I don't think it was a mystery to anyone that he was being paid in crypto by those new companies that were creating IPOs of crypto. So it's like, come on. So that's the new indictment. Anyway, Skype by the way, is owned by no zucking Zoom. Hate Zoom. Uh, yeah, Telegram is. I'm talking voice over IP, so that's not a Telegram thing. I guess you could do that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Explain what, bro? Explain what? What am I missing here? How do I network with other people while staying private? I have a public persona, and it's YouTube. And if I need a private persona, uh, like family and all that, I don't use YouTube, nor do I use social media if I can. I'll contact you by on Signal or something if you're family. By the way, all my family members are now on Signal, and that's quite an accomplishment because before they were always forcing me to use Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. And I said, "Zock you, I will never talk to you on any of those platforms. Never, never, never." And I said, I put my foot down and I said, either we talk on Signal or not at all. And now all of them are on Signal. My entire family is now on Signal. So use that. I need his opinion on crypto. Oh, you mean McAfee? I wouldn't really pay any attention to McAfee's, tips on crypto. So, obviously he makes money from that. Why don't use a phone like a human being? Why don't use a phone like a human being? Build your own network for the whole of the USA. I wish I were that rich. Many people have asked me, can we build a privacy phone and all that, and asked me to consult for them to build privacy phones. And yes, would be nice to, if I can someday come up and say that, yeah, I can promote this phone. It's a nice quality phone and it's private. I would do that, but I don't have anything. No one's ever. All these people have told me that they're working on it have not completed their projects. So I really, have nothing to recommend. So I'm using a Pixel 4. So in case you're wondering what I'm using, I used to be, before I was using Pixel 4, I was using a Pixel 3. So I bought a Pixel 4 for testing, and then this became the model, and I started to sell you Pixel 4s. Is there really a big difference with Pixel 4 and Pixel 3? Actually, not much. Supposedly better camera, but they're both waterproof. I love the size of Pixel 4, so it's my. So for recommendation for the Google phone, at the moment the most trouble-free would be a Pixel 3, and if you can afford it, a Pixel 4. A Pixel 4 is a lot more expensive. So if you can't afford it, don't, stick to a Pixel 3. It'll be fine. What do you think about crypto networks? By the way, crypto is not something I want to focus my channel on because YouTube does not like crypto. So you talk a lot about crypto, YouTube will do something, and I don't really want to do that. I've not been successful. Some people have been successful with. Moto G Power. No, I have not tried that yet. So wait a few months. Maybe somebody will figure out a Moto G Power, but at the moment, I can't say that's reliable yet. Landline is the only thing you have at the moment. As I said about the Moto G7, I'm telling you, which what I said at the beginning of this video is that many carriers will just reject some proportion of the Moto G7s for no apparent reason. I don't really know why, but they'll say your Moto G7 is not going to be accepted on Verizon. I have no idea why. It's the same Moto G7. So if you want to be problem free, if you're on Verizon, especially if you're on Verizon, I'm going to say stick to Pixel 3. If you're not using Verizon, I think you can easily use a Moto G7 without a problem. But if you're not on if you're on Verizon, I'm just so fed up with Verizon. Just avoid a headache. Go get a Pixel. What are your expansion plans? I don't have any expansion plans. XMPP, Gajim, Nextcloud, Talk, those are good. Gajim is XMPP. Yeah, those are all good. XMPP is conversations as well. Don't forget conversations. I run an XMPP server, xmpp.brax.live. I only saw Pixel 3 Google on sale. The Google Forms from Rob receive updates from Lineage. Yes, you get regular updates from Lineage. The Google phones of using different OSs may be less flexible than Lineage OS. So, for example, if you use Graphene, then you're going to be using F-Droid only. You're not going to be installing any Play Store apps. So it's more hardcore. So if that's what you want, then go use it. It's a little bit more hardcore. We don't need to go that hardcore. Privacy is the issue here, and I think that this suffices. It does the job. This handles the privacy issue, and we don't need to go hardcore unless you're in the cybersecurity field. If you're in cybersecurity and you're fearing being hacked, then Graphene will probably be better for you. So, but honestly, I don't use Graphene. I use Lineage. And that's me. I'm the privacy guy, and that's all I use, and I'm happy with it. I'm sure Graphene will work fine too, but Lineage works fine for me, and it's going to work fine for you for what I'm trying to get you to do, which is to change your life so that you don't rely on the phone. I don't want you to rely too much on the phone. The problem is some of you who use certain OSs like Calyx or Graphene you do that because you want to rely on the phone more. So you say, oh, I'm going to get the most secure, cyber secure phone because the claim to fame is that Graphene is more cyber secure than a Lineage OS phone. Cyber secure, not private. From a privacy point of view, they're all the same. From a cybersecurity point, that's what they say the advantages on Graphene, with some inconveniences because you're limited on the apps. The problem with that point of view is that I don't really want you to use your phone more. I want you to use your phone less. So I don't put any data on my phone. If you stole my phone, I'll just Google another one and move on. There's nothing in here. There's no data to steal. It's not like I have private data in here. So even the photos in here, I download to my computer every night. So the Google phones are made for you to take the pictures and delete it from here. That's the way I have it set up. Okay, and then that will be safer for all of us. What phone do they use? Hopefully they're smart enough to know not to use a phone. They probably do not use a phone. You need to make a second channel for crypto. I could, but I was doing weekly crypto things back on Periscope. I had a weekly show that would teach people the basics of crypto. This was, 4 years ago now? Right before it crashed, when it reached 20,000 and then it crashed. So right around that time, and then people lost interest. So yes, I was doing that, but it's really not my my deal right now. Why would crypto even be interesting to me? Because crypto is privacy. It's a way to have your transactions not show up in your credit reports and all that. It's a way to transact without some obvious identifiers. So for that reason, it's useful for privacy. It's not about being a criminal or hiding or doing any of that. It's about getting privacy with crypto. So that's why I do believe in that. But some of you don't like crypto. I never thought I'd be mad about making an investment principal protected. Bro, 100% crypto is safe. Have you considered installing Android on the Pine phone? I am not aware of a native Android yet on the Pine phone that's running. They may have one, but at the moment, if they can install a native Android on a Pine phone and it's no gaps, kind of like Lineage OS, then that would be a great option too. Okay? If you use Facebook, is there any way to keep yourself safe? No. You're zucked. No. Facebook is so bad. No, there is really no solution. Okay? You have to make a choice. Facebook or no Facebook. I can't help you. I wish I had a solution. Oh, you can do this trick or that trick. There is none. Okay? There is none. So as far as I'm concerned, you're zucked. You need a Pixel 3. Thank you, Kent. Tell me de-Googled in India. I sell to India. In fact, Mickey Leaks has a de-Googled phone. Yeah, and he's in India. Yeah, the phone can be sold anywhere in the world. So it doesn't matter. Can you activate a de-Googled phone? Activation on phone, they're the same. So a Pixel 3 de-Googled appears to Verizon and Tmobile and AT&T to be the same as any Android. They can't tell the difference. Okay? Unless you bring them the phone and they say, oh, that looks a little different. Okay, other than that, they don't know. Okay? Yes, you are Zuck, Gary. YouTube is slowing the connection. Let me see. Just making sure that there is no slowdown here. No, signal's good. Okay. I only have 8 more minutes here, so we'll see if I can answer more questions. I just want to make sure that you're educated. Again, to kind of summarize, we are being zucked by the carrier. So at the moment, if you want a little bit of insurance that your phone isn't gonna run amok, and complain to Verizon, the best choice, the cheapest best choice, which is not that cheap, is a Pixel 3. And I have a ton of Pixel 3, so I'm able to get Pixel 3s in high volume. Yes, I have Pixel 4s, but they're very expensive. Yes, I have Pixel 4s. I have Pixel 4 XLs, Pixel 4 XL 128, 64. Yeah, I have a lot of Pixel 4s. So basically, the phone models I'm able to get now in quantity is Pixel 3s and Pixel 4s because they're the least problematic and I can get them in volume. The other ones I cannot get in volume anymore. I can get them once in a while. What computer would you recommend to a journalist like Snowden? He should use Linux. He should use Cubes or Tails. Okay? Cubes, by the way, in case you didn't know, has so much incompatibilities. It does not run with a lot of hardware. And one of the reasons is it's the virtual machine in Cubes is hardware specific. It's a hardware virtual machine, not like KVM, which is part of the Linux kernel. So Cubes is hardware based. So it needs a certain kind of hardware HVM, hardware virtualization. So for that reason, Cubes is extremely difficult to use. You'll be hard pressed to find a compatible computer unless it's very old. So Cubes is not something I would recommend for casual use. Instead of using Cubes, just use a regular Linux computer and use a Brax router, which is exactly the same thing that Hunix does. Unix is two virtual machines, one being the router virtual machine and one being the Linux virtual machine. Well, just I put the router in the hardware, Brax router. You can use it as Tor or VPN, and it basically functions just like Unix. Patriot Mobile or Pure Talk are just MVNO, so they're just normal. They go to T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. No, you can't. iPhone knows your identity. You have your Apple ID. So, there's a limit to what you can do. Let me see. Imagine a decentralized social media on a blockchain. The problem with decentralized social media is that it's permanent. That's decentralization with a blockchain means it's immutable. Cannot delete it. So you can't, if you made a comment 50 years ago, 50 years from now, it's still in the blockchain. So you can't undo it. Does your Tor router automatically bridge through your Brax VPN? Tor router, my Brax router, if you have it in Tor mode, is end to end between you and Tor. There's no Brax in between. If you use Bytes VPN, then there's no Tor. You go from the router to Bytes VPN, exiting out from VPN. But if you use Tor mode, it's pure Tor. So it's obviously the most secure solution because it's end to end. Okay. What do you recommend instead of iPad? To be honest, I recommend Microsoft Surface. Hard to believe, but if you're going to want the same form factor, I would recommend Microsoft Surface. What will you do when 5G is required? Use my phone in so little situations as possible. I would really, when 5G, it's going to take a while, by the way. We're not even in 5G yet. Is Dell safe? Yeah. Dell safe. I mean, Dell is a good computer. It's one of the best as computers go. But the form factor it's an ultralight. So the Dell XPS is one of the best ultralights, but it's not a convertible. So, some of these you have to make a choice. In terms of, ultralight computers, I only have 3 minutes here, so I'll just review this for you. I have 4 models that you can pick from if you want to use a computer. One is the true tablet format, which is the Microsoft Surface. And if you want pure Windows, true Windows, not some fake Windows, then you use Microsoft Surface Pro. Okay, so that's probably the best equivalent of a tablet. If you want to stick with this form factor, because there's no Linux. It's not going to. Linux doesn't run on that form factor. Next, you have the convertibles. The two convertibles are the Lenovo Yoga, and the other one is the HP Spectre X360, which I'm using right here. I also have a Lenovo Yoga, not in this room, but I have a Lenovo Yoga. So I have that too. Convertibles, meaning you can fold it into a tablet format. A Dell XPS is a fantastic laptop and may run Linux, but it is not a convertible. So it's a regular laptop. It's very lightweight though. So those are 4 options of the standard computers. Now, if you want to go Linux, then you got to go with a laptop format. You don't have any convertibles, and they're not really anywhere near a tablet. They're not tablet format. So you either make a choice, laptop format or something similar to that, or go with a computer laptop. And of those, the choices are Librem 14, System 76, Star laptops, and I have a video on that, and Dell XPS. So those are the options. Dell XPS 713 is now a convertible. It wasn't before. As far as I know, it's not a convertible. It's a very nice computer, though. I think it's the best. So for laptop sized. Would a PC computer be a good way to go? Of course, it would be a good way to go, because then you can dual boot. You can run Linux, you can run Windows. The problem with a computer is, of course, it's a different form factor. So if you like that form factor, then you would use that. For example, I use a gaming computer because I do videos. I have a gaming computer, and a gaming computer is not anywhere near a tablet format, but it has touchscreen and all that. So the characteristics of a laptop made for tablet use, it's a touchscreen. Okay, so just so you know that. I have a Pi 4 lying around. Can I install Brax router on that? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Any Pi 4B will run Brax router. Okay, so I'm out of time. So thank you very much. I'm hoping that we can go out in the world soon and not be locked up all this time. Maybe I'll go do some more boating. And I went boating today, in case you were looking for me and couldn't find me. I went sailing today. And I'm going sailing tomorrow too. So yeah, sometimes I need to relax too, and my relaxation is to do sailing, or music, or reading, or whatever. I do a lot of things. So don't say my name. How can that be? Didn't say my name. How can that be? Okay, so thank you for watching, guys. And kelp, come over to my boat and let's go catch some kelp. Scoop up some kelp from the ocean. There's kelp right next to my dock. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching, and go watch my my last video on your home, so you protect your home and set it up right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Good night.